Taking a deep breath and breathe out a sigh of relief. Today's our last chat, and it's going to be an easy one. No new ideas or material for today. Just a simple review and revisit to the things I've already talked about over the last 11 weeks. You have all been absolutely brilliant to give me your attention over this course. It's hard for me to put into words how privileged you all make me feel. All I'll say for now is that I'm extremely grateful. Thank you. I've asked you a heap of questions throughout this course. The first thing I asked was, why should you listen to a beardy fucker like me talk about well-being? Well, I hope I provided some sort of a convincing answer to that question over the last 11 weeks. I asked you if you had any secrets. I asked you if these secrets served you or if these secrets burdened you. I asked you if someone you loved was suffering, would you want them to suffer in silence or would you want them to open up to you? In week 3, I asked you, in what ways do you express yourself? Week 4, I asked you, what are the things we can do to best serve our minds? I also asked you, what are the things that we do that burden our minds? In week 5, I asked you what mindfulness means. What springs to your mind when I say the word mindfulness now? In week 6, I asked you what you thought of meditation. In week 7, I asked you to consider when it might be useful to surrender. Week 8, I asked you, what principles do you have? And I asked you whether these principles served you or whether they burdened you. In week 9, I asked you, how do you frame the different aspects of your life? I asked you a similar question to what I asked you in week 8 again. Do these framings serve your well-being or do they harm your well-being? Week 10 was the chat. I asked you to imagine being invited to a party. I asked you to imagine how you would react to this invitation based on how you were feeling that day. Angry, sad, happy, worried. I asked you to consider how the colour of our emotions might interact with how we experience the world. And then lastly, last week I asked you to imagine the intentions somebody had when they pissed you off. Did they want to piss you off? If so, should that person get what they want? Did they really want to piss you off in the first place? What benefit for you does getting pissed off achieve? So those were my questions from the last 11 weeks. Today I want to ask you, if you've been suffering, did you reveal your vulnerability to anybody over the last 11 weeks? Have you dipped your toes yet in the waters of having nothing to hide? Have you experimented with a new avenue of expression? Have you meditated since our last guided meditation? If so, why did you give it another go? If you didn't, why didn't you give it another go? Have you considered the ideas and attitudes you have in your life that serve you? Have you thought of any that might burden you? I want you to write down the things that were occurring to you as I reminded you of these questions. At this point, we can take a class vote to see if we want to start at the beginning of the questions again, and we can pause for a minute or two while we're writing and figuring it all out. We're all on our own paths to well-being. I'm grateful that you've joined me in thinking about different methods we can use to achieve greater well-being. I'm still learning, still exposing myself to new ideas, still having nothing to hide, still trying to be appropriate, still expressing myself in tried and tested ways, as well as through new avenues of expression, still attempting to be mindful, still meditating, Still making efforts to have humility. Still trying to neglect my self-consciousness. Still asking myself whether my principles serve me or burden me. Still attempting to frame things in a most beneficial way. Still trying to notice the colour of my emotions. Still making efforts to be charitable when imagining the intentions of other people. Still inviting others to consider their well-being. And lastly, still inviting myself to do the same. Thank you so much for engaging with me over the last 12 weeks. And I hope to see you in person someday.